the realism, the connection has to be there. It has to feel authentic. And yeah, it might require a little bit more work, but we think that that authenticity and connection cannot be compromised on.
Welcome to the Tech Savvy Recruiter, the podcast for recruitment and staffing agency owners keen to explore the tech innovations reshaping our industry. I'm Andrew Roger from recMate.
And I'm Belinda from Recruitment Garage, and together we're your hosts bringing you a stellar lineup of tech experts ready to help you understand and, more importantly, benefit from the increasing array of tech available to you today. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Ashwin Mathews. Ashwin is the CEO of Dopplio, and Dopplio is an AI video personalization tool that helps recruiters get more clients and candidates by automating their cold video outreach. So super cool. Originally, Ashwin was a software engineer, and he went from hacking drones, which I think is really cool, at a startup to running a recruiting firm. And he took my course somewhere in between, and eventually he sold his recruitment company before starting Dopplio. So super cool and interesting background. And so Ashwin, I want to ask, so when we first met a few years ago, you described yourself to me as a legal hacker, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. And you'd been working on, as I said, preventing these drones becoming malicious and reckless, and then into running your recruitment agency owner with Emma, which obviously, as I said, you've now sold. And I know you were building Dopplio at the same time. So I'd love to know what your top line thoughts are on what the recruitment industry could learn from the tech industry, or the tech experience that you had in a totally different industry.
Yeah. As you mentioned, I was a software engineer before, and coming in to these accelerators and courses, most recruiters I met tended to come from the other side. They're very personable. They came from a sales background. And so I found that they would often opt for a sales or like hire a person to do something solution basis first. Whereas me not being so comfortable with sales or on the phone, I would opt for the non-human contact systems oriented solution. And that actually works quite well in today's modern world with, LinkedIn and text and email. That actually works very well. So I feel like most courses actually gear themselves towards teaching people to use more systems and automation. And I feel like that itself, just knowing that about those two approaches and trying to see what they are in each version before moving forward, I think is just a huge advantage.
Yeah, cool. So when you were in the tech world and then you found yourself in the recruitment world, were there any kind of things that you thought, man, these guys could be thinking about this in a different way?
I feel like mainly when it came to the process of recruiting itself, I personally visualized it as a data pipeline, and that's how we built our whole company. You had leads that you needed to find coming in, you had jobs that needed filling, and if you in theory knew the name, the contact info, or the LinkedIn of the person that would be perfect for that job today, you could go reach them, right? And so that's kind of how we structured it, just viewing it as data that needs to be connected and then filling in each part of that pipeline, sometimes with automation, sometimes with people that are doing the calling and the talking or the emailing. Yeah,
that's a really good point, isn't it? Because when I started in recruitment, people were hidden behind a veil. You couldn't always get their information. So, and everybody's just served up to us on a plate now, aren't they? It's just a matter of getting that process in and being able to engage them and get them across with both, I guess, what we're doing personally, but also those tech tools that help us out. Yeah, cool.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, Ashwin. It's I know I've said this before. I love the quote, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems and processes often as well. So, I think you've seen it time and time again, Belinda, around where you've got some really talented recruiters who are excellent recruitment consultants, but they just might be lacking with that system or process so that they can move, as you said, in usually quite a linear format to discovering those candidates, then working with them to get engagement, and then eventually, the goal is obviously to make a placement with one or many of those candidates along that pipeline there. Yeah. So it just is really interesting to see how much you can leverage your time and energy with some, I guess, processes in place. And I was just thinking, that sort of leads me to a question I was thinking about before this session around Ashwin, if you could maybe elaborate on some specific areas within the recruitment agency world that AI-enriched video tech can significantly impact positively, obviously, business growth. That would be, I think, really interesting for our viewers today.
Yes, certainly. And it's funny you mentioned that quote. My wife, who is Australian, by the way, actually has it printed out right here. You fall to the level of your systems.
Congratulations on two things, having the Aussie wife and that quote at very handy access.
Agreed on both accounts. We find the biggest gain, at least that came from our own experience and what we're seeing with others, is number one, client acquisition. Number two, candidate. So the reason, I don't know if you know this, but the reason I built Dopplio is we were using manual Loom videos. We were spending about 2 hours a day recording them. And my wife, Emma, was doing most of this. Huge help in our business, great conversion, but she was getting fed up. And when she got pregnant with our first son, she came to me, she's like, look, I can't do this anymore. So I wrote a Python script that automated this, and it worked so well that we just kept it running for a year and never did a video again after that.
Amazing.
And so that worked really well. I think it generated us almost $500,000 in new revenue for our business without us having to record a video. So the client acquisition, it definitely works. On the candidate side, we never quite perfected a system for it, but if we had one niche, say psychiatric nurse practitioners, and you had a very targeted message that you wanted to send out to a large amount of them, then we'd make that one video and we could use Dopplio for something like that. Or at the time, it was just a Python script, but AI video would help a lot in that regard.
The UI is probably a little bit more inviting than the Python script these days, right? So it's an enabler for anybody to pick that up and start running with that. I think the market's really primed for this type of opportunity. I'm seeing it almost on a daily basis where we get inquiries around how we can act more like a SaaS company rather than a recruitment company, because I think that if you do a little bit of research into the SaaS world, they're probably 5 to 10 years ahead of where the recruitment space is. And there are probably few SaaS BD managers there that are picking up the phones, making 100 cold calls a day, okay? They will be typically getting fed information from a system saying these are some pre-qualified leads. They've gone through our 7-stage process, whatever it might be, to warm them up, and it's now time to give them a call. So they're making warm calls instead of cold calls, or in often cases they've got inbound requests saying, hey, Ashwin, can you help me? I'm looking for an XYZ person. You seem to be the go-to team to do this stuff.
And have you guys seen that? I think it's Air AI, where they have an AI close someone on the phone in a live sales call? That was mind blowing.
Pretty amazing. Yeah. I was talking to somebody on the phone the other day, and he's got a client called Rachel, and it just reminded me of the movie Megan, and how there could be a bot which is a humanistic bot that's got AI inbuilt in it in a very close proximity of time. I sort of forecast that availability in the next 5 to 10 years for sure, with the developments that are being made there. But I think there's still that human element that our industry doesn't have to be too worried about. I think the initial stages can get satisfied a lot via automation and bots, but then at the end of the day, people love buying from people the majority of time.
Yeah. I think we just have to be across how we can use it, engage it, and use it where we can. I think if you stick your head in the sand and go, oh, it's all too hard for me, then you'll get left behind. But, you need to stay across it and be open to using it and looking at all these keeping across these different tools that are coming out, and they're using AI to build those tools, as is Ashwin. Cool. So then following on from that, Ashwin, with this increased reliance on AI enhanced video, what do we need to be thinking about when it comes to, like to Andrew's point, maintaining that genuine, authentic connection? How can we have both?
I think so. That's kind of where we sort of differentiate from others in our approach. There are a lot of tools out there that are more automated, but they sacrifice a little bit of that realism. And some tools that are not meant for this, like, I don't know if you've heard of Synthesia.
No.
Not to knock them. It's a completely different tool for a different purpose, but they'll create completely AI generated avatars that'll speak to you in a very human-like way. But it's obviously not, it's in that uncanny valley where it's clearly not a real human. So it can't quite be used for sales yet. And so we come from that other side of the spectrum where for us, the realism, the connection has to be there. It has to feel authentic. And yeah, it might require a little bit more work, but we think that authenticity and connection cannot be compromised on.
Yeah, great. So do you feel like we're kind of doing it in such a way that we're pretending that it is a one-to-one connection, or are we kind of being upfront and people are understanding that it's AI, but that's okay because it's helping them get to the end game that they need as well?
I was just speaking to someone about 20 minutes ago about this. We've done both. We have just kind of like with an email copy where we don't call out that we're using email automation, but it's kind of understood. Yeah. We've done that to where it's just doing something that we would otherwise do manually. Whereas when we send out cold emails with videos for Dopplio, we call it out, say, hey, by the way, this is an AI generated video. And granted, that's part of our sell, like it's kind of our big reveal. But the person I was speaking to before this, he does that. He announces that he is using an AI video and is just very upfront about it, and people don't mind it.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I guess we're looking more for the result that we get, aren't we, in the end? But that's true. You can. It's a great point you make. Email marketing is just the same. We're all saying hi, Bob, hi, Sally, hi, Chris to 3,000 people, but it's kind of, it's accepted. People know it and they roll with it. I hear what you're saying for sure.
And I think if the value's in that communication, people don't mind receiving it. So at a very basic format, I know it's not AI, but automation has been in place for a long time. So when I get a reminder for my dental appointment in a week's time, I know the dentist hasn't sent that, but I find that of enormous value because it makes sure that appointment's in the calendar. If I need to change it, it's a reminder to change that appointment, etc.
100%.
I think you're right, Ashwin. It's a dangerous game to play if you're pretending that it's real and it's not real. So I love that approach to call it out, saying, hey, by the way, this is a generated outreach or whatever you want to say in that's recording. So it just knocks it on the head. But I think if that content is there around why you're in contact with that person, how you can assist them, then that starts to fade away.
I was just going to say it's a little bit like the chatbot that calls themselves out and says, "Hey, I'm
Charlie the chatbot or whatever." Right?
There you go. We're in sync. I'm Charlie the chat, and I'm here to help you. If I can't, I'll put you onto a real human.
Yeah, I think that works really well, and I think as I know. A glossy piece of email marketing, it's got hi Andrew in there. I know that somebody hasn't written that, but as long as the content's fine, I'll keep reading that copy in there, and I might do something about it if it's really good as well. So
cool.
It makes sense.
And I'm not sure if this is a result of having worked in the industry and recruiting and having sent out cold emails, but I read a lot more cold emails now, and I'll respond to any of them if they're useful. I've had several meetings set up from it, so it definitely works. 100%. But I don't know if I'm biased now because I've done it myself.
I think ultimately salespeople love being sold to. There's a little bit of that in us, I think, all. So I think we've probably got a little bit of a higher proportion of response rates there if you're marketing to other sales professionals. But I agree with you. If there's some nice copy in there, it makes sense, and I'll sometimes put that in my file for later. I might reuse that somewhere else in a slightly different way. Because I think that engagement piece is really important. If you can work with a good marketer, or if you've got that flair internally, having that what's in it for me finely tuned to your audience just overcomes any sort of maybe glitches or things like that a module can perhaps put in that target's mind. Yeah,
it's like Instagram ads. I actually enjoy some of them now.
Yes. Yeah, it makes real sense sometimes. Speaking of minds, I know a lot of my customers get overwhelmed with tech. They often come to me and say, "Hey, Andrew, gosh, there's too many options out there for me. I already have tech coming out of everything." And this is a new-ish product, newish market vertical, the AI video world. To simplify that process of review, what would your recommendation be to have a good place to start with AI video and the benefits of that, Ashwin?
I would actually recommend that in AI video, they start with the video aspect. A big reason is the people that tend to have the least success with Dopplio, it tends to come from their video themselves. So all these automation tools, same with email copy as well. Email automation is still limited by the email copy itself. So Dopplio and other tools like it is a multiplier, but 1,000 times 0 is still 0, which is how I like to explain it. So getting a really good video is first, and then once you have that, then we can magnify it. And so that's a problem we're trying to solve at the moment by helping people create the thing worth copying first, so that we have a strong foundation from which to automate.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We see that day in, day out with advertising copy for job board advertising. It might be for your corporate website or your third-party, paid advertising. Rubbish copy is going to get rubbish results. And if you just want to refresh that rubbish just to try and get it back to the top of the list because it's the newest ad out there, you're going to get that sort of rubbish result back in. But I think that's an undersold area of where people can hone some skills, that art of copywriting, or at least have somebody in the team who's a good copywriter, or have access to a third-party copywriter to really hone the work that you do, because it is definitely a mixture of art and science in getting that perfect copy ready, and that can be turned into obviously a script for video or outbound email marketing too.
So Ashwin, would you recommend getting that video going, running it in the old-fashioned way, and then when it's converting, then look at how you can incorporate AI on top, or when you're building the videos for AI, do they need to be kind of written in such a way for AI?
It's a good question. I wonder this myself sometimes. Obviously, I would believe that there's value in doing something manual first, just so that you really learn it. And then not only do you appreciate the automation, but what should be done. That being said, if I were to start again today, I would start with the video myself, purely out of a time perspective. Reclaiming 2 hours a day was really valuable for us. So I guess my answer is it depends. If your video is not good or you don't have a process for it yet, I would probably say start doing it manually. If you have a good process and a good video, you may as well just turn the lever up from the get-go.
Yeah, got you. And so what I'm interested in as well is how customizable can it become given its video? I imagine it's probably the hardest when you compare it to written or audio. Kind of what do you say about that? Yeah,
sometimes I am kicking myself for not starting a text-based AI automation company instead of a video.
There's always time, Ashwin. There's always time. You're only young, got plenty of time.
But yes, video is exceptionally hard because you have to do not only the voice, but the lips as well. What we find is there's a spectrum of companies, and like that one I mentioned earlier that completely generates it versus how we just do a little portion. The added automation generally comes at the cost of less realism, and then a less automation, a little bit more work comes at the cost of more realism. So I think that's kind of the difficulty spectrum. It is very hard technically. I think we will get there as compute keeps increasing, and every week there's some crazy AI breakthrough. It is pretty wild. It's
nuts, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly developed a long way from the app you download on your device to your image of your baby or your cat or whatever, and then you put some lips. You sort of draw around the lips area, and then you can make it sing to your favorite song, right? So
yes, exactly.
It's certainly come a long way from that perspective. But yeah, I just find it fascinating how real it is getting though. It's becoming very real.
Do you remember Carl, the app Carl? I remember seeing that the first time about, it'd be 12 years ago. The little app was Carl, and it used to talk back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very, anyway.
I remember Smarter Child from AOL Instant Messenger.
Okay.
The chatbots. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it would have been different in Australia. You didn't have AOL Instant Messenger, huh?
I think there was, but it wasn't as prolific. As
because it's America Online, right? Makes sense.
Yeah, but we're a little America. Okay, I apologise to anyone who took offence to that, but let's face it, there's a lot of America in Australia.
Yeah,
I'll never forget when my wife told me that she watched all the shows that I watched because they're
there you go.
Yeah,
there you go. I don't know that it works so much the other way around. Like sometimes I'll be talking, doing the coaching, and the American participants will go, "What's that word you just used?" And because I used to say BD, and someone called me out from America going, "What's BD?" And I'm like, "Business development." Like you don't. They're like, "Oh, okay." I had no idea that's what it was.
Yeah, I think the word Arvo got me when I first started dating my wife.
Arvo, me too. Yeah, makes sense, right? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think there's a whole song about our colloquialisms, isn't there?
Probably.
Lots of,
if not, there should be.
Lots of those. Looking into the future a little bit, Ashwin, what's happening next? If you were to have a little glance, a little window into, say, maybe even as close as 2 years down the track, what do you think it's going to look like for AI video for the recruitment sector?
I ask ourselves this a lot because I wonder if AI is going to automate everything. If we're just we're facing an existential threat that's inevitable. I think that it's going to get very realistic. I think that we'll be able to capture with a few words like someone's mannerisms, and that you will be able to programmatically do it. So you won't have to record any video itself. You can just say, make this greeting in this tone and so on. The thing I don't know is what happens beyond that. There's always like in cybersecurity, there's this idea of a cat and mouse game, right? Like hackers improve, then the defense improves, and the hackers improve. And I feel like the same is true in advertising and marketing. People realize what works, then everyone does it, stops working. So text doesn't work now, so now video works. So if everyone gets video to the point where you don't know what's real and what's AI, how can one even pretend to be human in a digital environment? I'm actually not sure.
Yeah, it's going to be, I mean, it's getting a bit scary in that regard. I don't know if you've seen on YouTube, it's been there for a little while, the guy who has done up a Tom Cruise AI video series, and it's pretty close, and I mean, he has spent a lot of time and energy in it, and just forecasting a couple of years, that effort that he has had to put in to get it to be pretty close will be seamless. As you just mentioned, it might be just a training part of the initiation of setting up that program, and then you go through a few things like you do when you scan your face for your phone to open up the phone. It'll be something like that, I think. It'll go through a series of working out your mannerisms and the way your facial structure moves, and it just maps it all. And then from there, once it's got that algorithm down, as you said, it can get a little bit scary. It does raise sort of question marks and issues and fear in, I think, a lot of us around that doppelganger, that online doppelganger that could be produced. There could be several Ashwins online running around, and nobody would be able to know the difference in a very short period of time, I think.
And that's actually where. Go ahead.
Pardon no Ashwin. Pardon me.
Oh, I was just going to say that's actually where the name Dopplio came from. Doppelganger.
Okay, it was funny because when Andrew was saying that, I was thinking doppelganger.
Yeah, but as many startups have been affected by this effect, all the good domain names for Doppel were taken. So we had to modify our name slightly.
That's cool, name. So speaking of which, let's hear a bit more about where you're up to with Dopplio. I know because we've known each other a while now, Ashwin. I know this is, I remember sort of your first iteration of this a couple of years ago. But where is it? Where is it now? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so now it is a fully standalone SaaS product. You can sign up. We have a free trial now. You can self-onboard. Most people are using it with teams, so they have their teams of VAs manually generating. We're currently working on a bulk upload feature and automation, so that right now on our website, if you type in your name and email into the lead magnet, you'll automatically get a video sent out to you that's personalized. Okay. So we're working on rolling out those types of features to everyone. But for now, we have all the AI voice cloning and AI lip syncing available to everyone, which is quite cool, having come from doing it manually for so many years.
Yeah, amazing. And I'm assuming it's wider than just recruitment, or is it purely recruitment that you're servicing?
We are focused on recruiters because that's what we know best and the problem I think we can solve. But a wide variety of people are using it. We have a lot of coaches, some marketers, because it is so widely applicable that you can kind of use it anywhere video is applicable, which seems to be everywhere.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's exciting. And so what's next? Oh, so you sort of did give a little bit of what's next there. Anything else more on the what's next for you?
Just massive automation. We are going to make it, you can hook Zapier triggers up to it. Maybe have some workflows in it as well. And the bulk upload would be the main thing. And really, I guess just pushing from the realism end to the complete automated end. I guess the end goal being is maybe we will create that doppelganger that freaks everyone out. But hopefully we can afford the domain name by then.
So can you, if I give you, can I be your doppelganger, but you make me 10 years younger?
Yeah, I mean they're doing that on TikTok, aren't they? Yeah.
Actually, let's go for 20.
Yeah. By the time that's created, I would probably also use 20, but at the rate it's progressing, it's probably next year or something.
Oh, I've just thought of something. I haven't thought about this before, but there's probably a module in there that would be audience relevant. So if I'm marketing to a person of an older generation, make me look a little bit older because I'm more speaking like one-to-one with that person. Or if I'm marketing to a younger generation, put that filter minus 20 years or something like that on. So I think there's something in there that you could be.
I like that. I like that.
Heard it here first.
Yeah. So dial in your doppelganger based on your target market.
That is.
It could be if I'm marketing a chef, so I want to put an extra, I'm not stereotyping here, but a lot of chefs do have tattoos, for example. So I want to be more
like
hipster, put a beard on me, all that kind of stuff.
The French sous chef.
So,
that was some next level targeting.
There we go. There's some thoughts for you, Ashwin, for next year.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
So Ashwin, any other thoughts around this before we close off? It's been lovely talking to you.
Yeah, likewise. No, just that it's a very exciting time to be, just alive in general with all this AI stuff, but also being able to implement it and just see what kind of game-changing breakthroughs are happening. It's almost like being in the .com era, but the next version of it.
Yeah, I was listening to something a few weeks ago, and that's exactly what the guy said. He goes, "It's the next big." Yeah, we thought the internet and the website. The internet was the next big thing. Well, now this is the next big thing from the internet, which makes total sense, doesn't it? So, Ashwin, where can people, if people want to reach out to you, connect with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, they can just go to Dopplio.com, and if they message on that chat, I'll be there, or they can reach out to me at ashwin@Dopplio.com. Okay,
and Dopplio is DOPPLIO.
Exactly. Or if they can find me on LinkedIn as well. I'm pretty reachable, I would think. But
it's not hard to find people now, is it, as we were saying before?
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Well, now, would they be getting a response from you or your doppelganger?
I guess you have to find out.
Okay.
No, that would be me. I still do. I have a lot of energy, so I reply to everything as fast as I can on my phone.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, Ashwin, it's so lovely to connect again, and really delighted to hear that, you've been so successful. You've sold your business, you're onto Dopplio and creating some pretty cool stuff, and look forward to seeing what's next for you. And thank you so much for being our guest today.
Yep. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode of the Tech Savvy Recruiter. If you'd like to stay up to date with the latest recruitment trends and insights, make sure that you remember to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And also, if you'd like to speak to Andrew about turning your tech stack into your secret weapon, or myself around creating an agency that delivers you more money, more meaning, and more freedom, we'd absolutely love to chat. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for your support. We look forward to seeing you next time.